time when many independently owned camera stores have vanished, Paul's Photo in Torrance, California has continued to thrive, thanks in large part to photographer and educator Mark Comon. For decades, Mark has helped photographers grow, not just through gear, but through community, education, and vision. As the second-generation leader of his family's business, he's guided it through economic downturns, the rise of online sales, and the challenges of the pandemic. I've known Mark since my early days at Nikon, and I've always admired his passion for helping others see. In this episode, we talk about the legacy of Paul's Photo, the value of in-person learning, and what it takes to keep a creative community alive in a digital world. This is Ibarian X, and welcome back to The Candid Frame. I'm glad we reconnected because you were one of the first people I got to meet outside of Nikon when I started working there back in, I think it was 91 or 92. You and your dad at the store. Because I think Mike Pliskin took me.
Right.
Took me over there.
Yep.
And that's how I got a chance to meet you and I'd pop in every once in a while. But I always liked you and your dad. But as you know, the photo industry has changed over these many years. I was always really impressed by what you guys did there. Especially with all the changes, because, you know,
oh my gosh.
I remember up in here in Pasadena, we had at least 4 or 5 different camera stores at one point. And now it's just Sammy's. And that was the case not only in Southern California, but all over the place. And
it's all over the world, Ibarian X. Yeah. So I'm part of a camera store owners group. We have been. My dad started 30 years ago with the group. And at the peak, there were 500 camera stores in the U.S. And now we're down to there's 109 of us in the organization still, with about 500 stores. Because a lot of places, the camera stores are smaller, but they have more than one. Right? But from 500 businesses down to around a little over 100 is crazy. And there are some states that have no camera store. There are some metropolitan areas that have no camera store. I mean, Atlanta can't keep a camera store.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's crazy, right? And, you know, a town like Houston has 1.5 camera stores. I mean, in L.A., we only have 4 or 5 stores for, 12 million people? It's crazy. The Bay Area has struggles with stores. Now, luckily, you know, so they've got Shutterbug in the North Bay, and Mike's camera's gone into the East Bay, but they can't keep a store in the city. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I have some ideas as to why you guys managed to persist when others couldn't. Let's talk about that. You know, that the first change when it started happening, because and you can probably better explain it to me, but to my rudimentary understanding, before digital, a large part of the income came not just from the sales of equipment, but from film processing. You know,
well, so Paul's Photo has been a part of what I think are the 3 big nexuses in the camera business. Mm-hmm. So the first one was in the 1960s when we went from big cameras to small cameras. So back in the day when your dad was taking pictures, it was a speed graphic, and a Rolly medium format was a small camera.
Yeah.
Then came the 35 millimeter cameras. And sure, there was 35 millimeter before that, but before Canon and Nikon and Pentax and Minolta made cameras for the masses in reasonable prices, you know, most people didn't shoot with a 35 millimeter camera. They shot with a bigger camera and either make bigger prints or to make contact prints, right? So then in the 2000s, when we met, right? So I'll call it 97, 98, something like that in there, right? Into the early 2000s, we had to switch to digital, which changed our business model, right? So, you know, we got rid of all the darkroom stuff, right? That went away, right? Started selling computers and printers that we didn't have before. Started selling software. And you're right. So the business model changed. So if you want a little bit of a peek behind the curtain in the camera store business. It used to be that the camera store existed on the film and the processing business. You counted on that revenue to cover your expenses every month. So that was the rent, the employees, and all that kind of stuff, right? And then the camera sales, the hardware sales, that was the profit you made in the business, right? So, you have to make 10 grand to pay the rent and everything. Okay, the film and the processing, we'll sell that. But remember, we were selling, oh my gosh. So we were a small store back in the day, right? Doing $1 million total business. And our Kodak bill was $10,000 a month. I remember my dad would freak having to write a check to Kodak for $10,000, right? 10 grand. Oh my God, the Kodak bill's 10 grand this month, right? But that was all the film, so that was 2, 3, 4, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 rolls of film a month going out the door, plus Polaroid, plus Ilford, plus, all the other film stuff. And that overnight, within 4 years, dried up to nearly zero.
Yeah.
And in the 2000s, we were throwing away film cameras. People would trade in film cameras. Nobody wanted them. And we would, recycle them, send them to the repairman. Now those cameras are worth a lot of money because people want film cameras again, right? And then the third nexus was the switch from full-size SLRs to mirrorless. Let's call that 2020, 2015, depending on what brand you're looking at as the leader there. But I'll tell you, this change has happened even through COVID, Ibarine X, faster than the change from film to digital. And I don't want to speak for Canon and Nikon, but I can't see that we'll really have any SLR cameras on the shelf much at all in 2026. Canon just last week discontinued the 1DX Mark III.
Yeah,
right?
I read about that.
So Nikon, they still sell the D6. They sell the D850, the D780, the D7500. Canon sells the Rebel T7 and the 5D Mark IV. Now, they still sell all those cameras. Nobody knows whether they're still manufacturing them or not, right?
Yeah.
I mean, do they have a ton of them sitting around that they're just waiting to sell down? I think Canon will probably stay with the T7 for a while because that's still really popular with the high school, college, photo instructor crowd, right? But yeah, everything will be mirrorless. I mean, it is for me, for my students, for my friends. I mean, for you, right? When was the last time you picked up an SLR camera?
Well, I have one. I have a 5D Mark IV.
And are you still using it?
I use it periodically.
Okay, all right.
But mostly it's the Fujifilm stuff I have. That's my everyday carry.
Right. That's your daily driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting back to that whole transition thing, how did you guys adjust to it? Because there's so many other camera stores that just disappeared in very short order, and I always attributed it to you guys for your incorporating photo education into that. That was a big part of it. But what else did you guys have to figure out in order to be able to, make it through?
So number one, the education, I'll get back to that. But number two, we were never a real heavy film processing store, right? We did film processing, but it was not our focus. Where some of my other friends, that's all they did. I mean, and if you looked at, some of the camera stores were basically a glorified 1 hour photo, right? So sell the film, we were always a hardware place. My dad loved the cameras. I loved the cameras, and I can always go into a camera store and tell you what their focus is just looking by what they got on the shelf, right? So if you go into back in the day, right, if you went into a store and they had Nikon, but they only had the FG, they didn't have an F3, right?
Right, yeah.
And they had the 70 to 200 Series E, but they didn't have the 80 to 200 2.8, right? They weren't a hardware store. that was a film store, right? And you can look at it today. So many of the stores, they don't, I've got friends. They carry one Z8 in stock. They carry one Canon R5 in stock. They don't even carry the 70 to 200 2.8 because that's a $3,000 lens. None of my customers are going to buy a $3,000 lens.
Yeah.
But we sell 3 or 4 of those a week.
How did you guys end up contending with people buying online? Eventually Amazon and a bunch of stores, people started purchasing over the internet.
But see, that's all. So what we built, so I have to go back to 1988. So we started teaching classes 1988. And the reason I started teaching classes was, so my dad taught when I was really young, when the store first started, he taught at adult school. And we knew that education was important. So I come into the business in 1974. I'm in high school, working in the camera store, talking to customers, and reading the PMA data. So back in the 1980s, the average camera, Ibarinax, shot 3 rolls of film through its life. So you would go to Target, White Front, Gemco, whatever discount big box store it was back then, right? And buy a camera, put a roll of film in it, couldn't figure it out, not happy with the results, took it back to Gemco to get crappy film developing made, right?
Yeah.
And unhappy. Oh, I'm going to try it again. Enough of this. This sucks. Camera goes under the bed, right? And I knew that was wrong. And that was wrong for all of us. That was wrong for you when you were working at 1-800-Nikon. It was wrong for us at the camera store. It was wrong for our industry that we had an industry, a hobby industry, where people weren't happy. Most customers were dissatisfied, right?
Yeah.
So, it's supposed to be fun. You don't go to the fishing store and buy a fishing pole and, hopefully get your ear caught with the hook, right? That's not why you go out fishing, right? You want to have a good time. So, started teaching the classes in 1988, and that helped us keep customers happy, right? So you would buy a camera, you'd give a camera to your wife, your daughter for Christmas, right? They'd come back for a class in January, and they'd get taught how to use it. They'd get sent out with an assignment, right? And so little by little, that, especially in our circle, right, in our sphere of influence, that dissatisfaction at a camera was going away. So, you buy your first camera, right, Ibarinax, right? You buy it with the kit lens or the 2-lens kit, right? Suddenly, that 70 to 300 5.6 just doesn't cut the mustard anymore. So you're going to trade it in. You're going to buy the 80 to 200 2.8. Suddenly, your camera that does 3 frames per second isn't enough. You're going to get the one that does 5 frames per second, right? And that's how it's been forever. Now, now we're selling, R5 Mark IIs and Z8s and Sony, A7 R5s and Fuji X-T5s that have, just the amount, what you can do with these cameras today is like mind-blowing. But that's been the secret all along, is helping people make better pictures, solving their problems. And through the classes, our team here is able to shortcut their learning curve. How cool would it be if I could teach, you wanted to go into cooking, right?
Yeah.
You want to you want to cook better. So you could go to Williams-Sonoma and they would say, I've got a 6-week how to be a chef class, so that now you can't cook for a wedding party, but you can certainly cook for your family and you're going to have a better time at it, right? Yeah. So that's what we did with our photo boot camp. Yeah,
because it makes... And it instills in the customer the idea that, well, when I want to upgrade or I want to get something else, I'll come back to where I picked up that first camera, because not only do I have a relationship, but they know me personally. They have a better understanding of what I need rather than just a price that they're seeing on an online website.
And still, as sophisticated as the internet is, as sophisticated as Google ad search and AI, the number one motivator for sales is word of mouth. So if I, get you excited, you're going to come back. I mean, and you'll come back until we piss you off, and sometimes you run into a salesman with a bad day or whatever, but 99% of the time that doesn't happen. And what else you bring next? You're going to tell your next door neighbor. You're going to tell your girlfriend who's going to sell her girlfriend, right? And suddenly, hey, I got this camera, and Mark and his crew, the Paul's Photo guy, or Johnny at Paul's Photo, he took good care of me, and boom. I mean, that's how it goes. And that's how we're still here. That's how we beat the internet. That's how we beat, Costco was a factor for us for a long time.
Oh, was it? Okay.
You don't see very many cameras at Costco anymore because, those were 3 rolls of film or 3 memory cards and under the bed people, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So your dad, I was reading, picked up a camera soon after he had served in the Korean War.
No, he went to Korea with a camera.
Oh, he went with Korea with a camera. Okay.
So he went to Torrance Camera on Sartori in downtown Torrance before he went into the Army, started working there, bought a Kodak Retina. I forget which one, but the folding Retina.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what he took to Korea. When he came back from Korea, got his old job back at the camera store, and away you went. And that was in the 1950s.
And the opportunity to buy the store?
That came in 1961 when the owner of the store wanted to retire. So he had 4 stores in his little chain, and he sold the 4 stores to the 4 managers at the stores.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And that's when Paul's Photo started. Before that, it was A1 Photo. Yeah.
And you said
all those stores have been gone for years.
So you started working in the store at about 14?
I was 14.
A lot of people, when they're especially preteen, the last thing they want to do is anything associated with their parents, right?
Today, back in the day, it wasn't so, right?
Okay, tell me.
It was fun. So my photography started, 8 or 9, I guess. So, your dad works in the camera store. Dad always had cool cameras coming through, right? So you're working in the camera store. Somebody trades in something that you couldn't afford, right?
Yeah.
So what do you do with it? You bring it home on the weekend, right? And then Sunday was go out with my sisters and my dad day. Leave mom at home, let mom have a rest. Dad would take us out. We'd go to the park. We'd go here. And Dad would bring whatever camera. And as we got older, the sisters wouldn't want to go. They were doing their own thing. So it was just him and me. We would go out and, he would show me. I still remember at Union Bank, if you remember Union Bank in Torrance, learning to do tilt shift on a 4x5 view camera, right? So showing me how the rise and fall works and all that, and loading film holders in the bathroom. And so that was our Sunday, right? So I started taking my own pictures in the Boy Scouts, hiking. So we were climbing mountains, hiking, and I always had a camera. So, I had a Minox 35, a Minolta Himatic 7S, a Canonette. All those cameras I took with me hiking. My first real camera was 7th grade. My dad gave me a Canon FTB. I was, 13, 12 at the time, photographing the high school the 8th grade yearbook, right? And then started working in the camera store. So I was I was December 74. So I was probably a freshman in high school, working in the camera store, still with the FTB. First camera I ever bought was a Hasselblad 500 CM for $480.
Oh, wow.
Thought I would have died and gone to heaven, man. Here I am. I'm like 15 years old, 16 years old. I've got a Hasselblad, right? But I'm making pictures with it. I made pictures every day. I still make pictures every day.
That's great. And I can't help but, to think that those memories that you shared with your dad on those Sundays are just absolutely precious to you.
It was great. It was great fun. I'll tell you, one of the stories I love to tell is one of the last memories of my dad is, so he passed away 3 years ago. He was sick for a short time. He was still coming to work every day, and we had to stop him during COVID because we didn't want him to get sick here at the store, right? Mm-hmm. So But after COVID, he would come in, and even through all those times where he had all these different cameras, he had one camera that was his personal camera. It was a Rolly 2.8F, twin lens.
Okay.
He came to work one day, and he said, Mark, I want to give this to you. I said, Dad, is that the camera? And he said, yeah, that's the camera. So when I was a kid, all these different cameras, that was for out playing. When it was family picture time, birthday, Christmas, holiday, right? You knew it was important when the Rolly came out, right? If it was just fooling around, it could be what any. But when the Rolly was out, this was real picture time, and my sisters and I, we had to behave because, he wanted a picture. So I have that camera, and it still works. It's awesome.
So when did the idea of you sort of like really taking this business seriously, or rather than going off and doing something else? When did that start?
Beginning of my college career, I thought about doing other things. I thought about going to medical school. I thought about going to the Air Force Academy, and those things didn't work out for me. And I was like probably sophomore in college and said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I just decided that I wanted to do the camera store. So I finished up my business degree, and I remember I was working in high school. I was working like 30 hours a week. In college, 40 hours a week. I had a full shift in college. So I worked my college schedule so that once I got some credit, I worked it so that I was going to school Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I always took the early morning classes. So I was like done by noon. And so Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that gave me Tuesday and Thursday off of school, most semesters. And Thursday was my day off. So I had a day to fool around, photograph, do whatever, right? And then Tuesday I would work all day, and Monday, Wednesday, Thursday I'd work half a day.
Man, that's really interesting because it makes me realize that you had wonderful synergy happening, because here you are getting a business degree while you're working in a successful business. So everything you're learning in the classroom, you have some context for it, as opposed to some 19 or 20-year-old who has no idea other than just theory and what some teacher is telling them.
Well, I don't regret my business degree at all, but honestly, it didn't help me. Well, the accounting and stuff did, because you need to learn that. But I learned in business school, some management skills, I'll say that. But a lot of it was financial stuff, like how to get a loan, how to do a bond, how to, all this stuff. And then how to do an estimate, like for a big company, right? I didn't build any projects. We didn't need a bond. We didn't need financing, right? But, I don't regret going to college for a business degree at all. So.
What would you say was one of the more challenging things to have to learn?
To learn?
Yeah, to learn and put into practice.
Management, how to talk to people, how to interact. I still practice every day, and one of the things I work with my team about and my educators at the Creative Photo Academy is that how you talk to people matters, what you say matters, and you have to make them feel comfortable. They have to make them feel understood. You have to care about, so I've helped you solve a problem with your camera, right? Your problem is my problem. We have to fix this together. It's not about selling you a new lens. It's about solving your problem, right?
Yeah.
You need a 200 millimeter 2.8 to take a picture of your daughter's ballet, right? That's the problem. Here's the solution. Yeah, I've never sold anything in my life. I've just helped people get better at what they do.
I love that. Yeah, because for me, and I think we probably agree, is that, most of the people I talk to are doing photography. They're not doing it to make a living, right? They're doing it because they love it, and it's something that brings them a lot of pleasure. So in everything that I'm doing, I'm trying. So in everything that I'm doing, there are a lot of people who've gone on trying to help people, help to facilitate whatever thing that they're trying to do. And it's very gratifying, but you get to see people face to face. I don't get to see people face to face that often.
So I have a lot of friends in the industry, and we're the pointy end of the spear, right? The marketing department in Tokyo or wherever can say this way here on the back of the shaft, But, we're where the rubber meets the road. Trying to make that thing that they thought up, that program, that deal work. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
How has the relationships with the manufacturers changed over the last 20, 30 years?
So our relationship with the manufacturers has gotten stronger because they realize how important we are to the camera industry. And when I say me, I don't mean me, Paul's Photo. I mean me, my brothers and sisters in the mid-size market, mid-size camera stores. We're the ones who drive a lot of the business for Amazon, the big New York guys, because this is where people come to see the stuff. We're the ones out teaching classes. We're the ones out in the field. And the manufacturers understand that, and that's why they support us. And they give us stuff that the big guys don't get. Like this weekend. So Friday, Saturday, so Nikon has a new concept. They call it the Nikon Mobile Tour. It's really cool. It was here at Paul's Photo Friday and Saturday. And it's a Toyota Land Cruiser painted yellow that says Nikon on it. And they've got a bunch of Pelican cases in the backs with Nikon Z5s and Z50 cameras that they let people borrow. So we had an event here at the store. We went down to the Redondo Beach Pier. We did all kinds of cool stuff. It was great.
Yeah, one of the things I enjoyed doing with you guys when I was at Nikon was the Zoo Day. When we would get
Don't talk to me about the zoo. That was one of our greatest things. And unfortunately, the zoo it never recovered from COVID. And they're not allowing that kind of events at the zoo anymore.
Oh, that's too bad.
So we did 33 years at the LA Zoo, an amazing event, 250 photographers, and the last one was 1999.
Oh, that's too bad.
No more.
I remember the animals looking at us and going, "What are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here.
What are all you guys doing here, right?" Luckily, somebody didn't get thrown in with the tiger, right?
God forbid.
There were some people we wished to throw in, right?
But that was fun. But you make the point about the experiences. The experiences really are so important. And I know that with the photo education, you're not just doing like online classes and workshops. You're going out at these the adventures you mentioned. Going to Africa Friday. But that's so much a part of creating the means by which people can have these adventures, doing something that and being with people who are kind of like-minded.
Yeah. I talk to customers every day, Ibery and X, about I don't want to take my camera on this trip because my husband, wife, partner, whoever doesn't like it when I take pictures because I take too long.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So come on a photo trip with us and we're all taking too long. Taking too long is the thing. So people ask me, so Mark, what's the difference between your safari to Africa versus the other one? Because yours is, $12,000 and theirs is $11,000. What's the extra $1,000 for? I said, there's 4 of you in a Jeep instead of 8. That makes a giant difference.
Yeah.
Right? And they drive around, just driving around to drive around looking for animals. We hunt the animals. We stalk the animals. We find the animals. We stay with them. And you know what? The non-photographers like it better too, because they get to watch the behavior. And that's when you get the pictures. So you see it. I see it all the time. First-timers with me, first-timers who go on safari, they bring back pictures that I'll call a catalog. That's a lion. That's an elephant. That's a giraffe.
Yeah.
And they're just standing there. They're doing nothing.
Go ahead, please.
Second-timers, they'll make what we call portraits. So they'll wait for the light to get right. They'll frame it right. But it's just a portrait. And if you have the time on the animal, if your team works the animal properly, then you can start making stories. The kind of pictures like you and I make, right? That have emotion, that you wait for the gesture, you wait for the light, you're predictive, so my crew doesn't, my customers love it, but they hate going on safari with me because we'll leave an animal because I can tell they're not going to do anything interesting, but we're going to go over there and wait because I think he's going to go over there and that could be a really cool picture, So I've given up taking my group to pictures 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 pictures. We're looking for the 8s maybe, but more 9s and 10s. And I would rather miss some 6s and get a 9.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This episode of The Candid Frame is brought to you by altadinaphotographers.org, a grassroots nonprofit created to help photographers who lost archives and gear due to the recent wildfires. The organization runs a registry that lets affected photographers list the items they need replaced, from lenses and lighting to computers and film scanners. Donors, both individuals and companies, can respond with direct support. It's a photographer-to-photographer system of care and generosity. To learn how you can contribute, visit altadinaphotographers.org. Every donation helps someone get back to doing the work they love. When I went to South Africa, I got an opportunity to go out and see wildlife. And the person that we were with, there was a herd of elephants way off in the distance. And he chose this spot near a watering hole. And we were there probably for almost an hour. But they slowly made their way there. Yep. And they had a couple of younglings. And they got into the mud and started bathing. And it was like remarkable. But it was like...
It's magic, isn't it?
Yeah.
And watching them cavort like that, it's so fun.
But, it goes to being with someone who knows the animals, and also isn't inclined to rush to hit this location and that location, just to give people a chance to have a diversity of stuff and only resulting in a bunch of mediocre pictures.
Right. And so we're not counting. I don't keep count anymore of how many animals we see. Some people still do, but I count how many wall hangers do we get. Right. I'm always looking for, if I can get 4 or 5 or 6 amazing prize-winning pictures on a safari, I'm more than happy. And that's what it takes to do that. Sit out and wait. Here they come. This is where I think they're going to be.
How do you feel you've improved as a teacher over the years?
Oh, my God. As people are less inclined to be interactive with other human beings, it's easier to interact with other human beings.
Yeah, I get that.
And if you care and you share, it's amazing what happens. The other thing that I like to share with my students, and this is they love about it, is, okay, we're traveling. We're not going to go to just the tourist places. We're going to go to these behind-the-scenes private locations where you can interact with the other people. And as a teacher, my job is not, Ibarionex, to tell you what f-stop to use, right? My job is to help you find in yourself, what is it about this place that turns you on? What do you want to share? What do you want to bring home? I've started to ask my students to think about their pictures before we go on a trip. So I send them, and I'll send you if you want, a photo. I call it the photo goals sheet. It's about a 10-page pamphlet with questions you have to answer. So what do you want to achieve on this trip? What do you want to see? And the answers I get back are always from beginners first-timers with me. Well, Mark, how do I know what we're going to see? I've never been there before. Well, you're going there because you looked on the internet and you saw on Instagram that you want to go to Turkey, right? And you want to go see Hagia Sophia. You want to go see the dome churches in Cappadocia. You want to see the horses running across the plain, and you want to see the balloons at sunrise on the hoodoos, right?
Yeah.
You know that. Write that down, right? Sketch it. Sketch it in your mind. Sketch it on your paper. And that's what I've learned is, and it's just the same with my photography, Ibarionex. My photography early on was all about f-stops and shutter speeds and getting the numbers right. And now it's about, okay, what's the story? What's the hook? Why? Why do I care? Why are you going to care about my picture, right? I don't care that you just bought a new lens. I don't care that it's a 1.2 and you shot at 1.2. What I care about is, dang, that's pretty cool. How did you make it look like that?
Yeah.
Well, I used an 85 1.2 at 1.2 into the sun, and that's what that does, right? So, and that also translates, I mean, so that goes from the classroom to the camera store too, you know? So what picture do you want to make? Well, I want to make, and people always, they show me a picture on Instagram. This is the picture I want to make. Okay, this is what it takes to do that. Boom, 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 boom. And if you need help learning how to use the equipment, we'll help you do that too.
One of the things
it's
that
so much fun.
I do now, especially when I'm teaching abroad, is like I started thinking about when people talk about the experience of going somewhere, like if I go to Tokyo or I go to Johannesburg, I'm always talking about all these experiences I had, but I didn't make photographs of those things, right? And
well, some things you can't photograph. It's just being there.
Yeah, but one of the things that I always, when I do a workshop, is I tell people photograph everything, even the most mundane things, the unmade bed in the hotel room, the half unpacked suitcase, you know, all that stuff is like, don't just think about, the visit to the temple as the time you pull out the camera. No, you should be practicing seeing throughout the time, because you're going to be remembering all of those things, or you hope to, right? You're not just going to be talking about these high points. You're going to be talking about, the person that you met while you were having lunch at this cafe, right?
That's the best part, isn't it?
Just all those little things are deserving of attention in terms of just experience, but also deserving of attention with respect to the camera. And it doesn't have to be anything elaborate, right? But you want to look at the photographs and go, this photographs, the photographs, I want people's photographs to not just document where they were at, but what it felt like to be there.
Yeah. So I just finished. So I want to ask you the same question. How has your teaching changed in the last 10 years?
I realized I didn't have to share as much. Okay. I was sharing way too much because I felt like I had to. Too much of you or no, just information. Information. Yeah. It was just like, I was feeling like I was obligated to share all this stuff, and I don't have to. I just focus on a couple of points and say, hey, this is what we're focusing on. And that was enough to create a transformative experience with the photographers.
Yeah.
Right. And I would have because I give a bunch of different exercises, all meant to make people uncomfortable.
Yep.
And just just to
push
get
the
them
boundaries,
just to get them into the mindset of being creative. That's for me was more important than them coming away with a killer photograph. It's like, I want you to learn how to get into this headspace of being creative, so that when we're done, whenever you go and photograph, whether you're walking down the street in your neighborhood or you're taking another vacation, you know how to get back into that space. And you don't necessarily need somebody like me to facilitate that.
No, you're right. I akin it to exercise, diet, all that kind of stuff, all those disciplines. Yeah. So what's your favorite exercise to do that? What do you find works for people the best?
Oh, the one that I do every time is the 24 exposure exercise. Okay. So basically, they have to shoot 24 consecutive frames.
Yep.
No deletions, but they also can't look through the viewfinder, and they can't use the LCD screen. So they're basically
so it's shooting from the hip, blind shooting.
Yeah, blind shooting. So I'm basically asking them to say, look at this scene, parse it, and then go ahead and make the shot. And every time people say, I don't think I got anything, everything sucks. And all of a sudden, everyone has at least one photograph out of that, which is remarkable.
Yeah.
Because, and it instills the idea that you don't have to have complete control over the camera and the way that you're seeing in order to get something, because it inevitably introduces that thing that you can't anticipate, right?
Yeah.
It introduces the possibility of a surprise, right?
Yes.
Where the horizon may be off, whatever it is that normally you would judge a camera as being inferior, but there's something in that photograph that's genuine.
Yeah.
And I go, this feels different from the other images where you had total control over.
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of want to instill, because I think everyone can get to that place, but they put so much baggage they're thinking too much about the camera, about the setting, about all this other stuff. And it's just like there's a way of reintroducing that sort of childish approach we first had, where we didn't know a damn thing about the camera.
But you still go.
But somehow we made a remarkable picture.
Yeah.
So
I just finished a class, teaching a class. It's been 2 years building. It took me 2 years to build it. Creative photography for technical people.
Yes.
And so a couple people told me, so Mark, how come you named it like that? How come you didn't want it to be just creative photography? Because then the people I would want to sign up wouldn't have signed up for it. They would say, oh, creative photography, that's not for me. Right? And it was amazing. So the reason I asked is my favorite assignment in that class was, and I do two things. I do assignments and I do exercises.
Yeah.
So the exercises I want you to do all the time. And my favorite one, I've done this for years, is what I call a 2-lens photo walk. So I want you to take your widest regular lens. I mean, so it doesn't have to be some exotic 14 millimeter something, right? But if you've got, like if you have a 17 to 35 and a 70 to 200, right? You take the 17 to 35, tape it at 17. You go to a location, you take one camera, one lens, and you go shoot 200 pictures. Then you go back to the car and switch out and put the 200 on and go to the same place and shoot 200 pictures with the 200. No zooming, right?
Yeah.
And the hard thing is, and I tell them, don't be thinking about the 200 pictures when you're shooting with the 17. Just shoot the 17. Just shoot the wide angle. And if all they've got the 24 to 105, that's okay. Do 24, do 105, right? But the whole point is to train your eye. And I use that same trick with customers who struggle with a lens. My friend told me I needed to buy the whatever lens, and I don't like it. Well, why don't you like it? I can't make any good pictures with it. Well, because you don't know it, right?
Right.
You haven't shot it at every aperture. You haven't shot it close up. You haven't shot it at distance. You're not using it right. Here, go for a weekend and just take that lens with you, and that's all you can use.
And when you give that assignment, when you give that assignment, what are you seeing? What are they?
I see light bulbs, lots of light bulbs, and that's what I want. That's the whole reason with your blind assignment too, right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
So what do you call that? The shoot from the hip blind assignment? Do you have a name
shooting
for it?
Blind.
Okay, shooting blind. Stevie Wonder photography.
Yeah, people hate that exercise. As soon as I tell them, they just bristle against it. But I've been doing that exercise probably for over 5 years, if not longer.
Yeah.
And I completely trust it. Because when they sit down there and they give me those 24 images, and I ask for all 24.
You want all 24. Yeah,
I want all 24.
You want the whole proof sheet, don't you?
I want the whole proof sheet, right? Because I'm going to look and I just go for that one shot. Right? Because there's one shot in there where I see it. And I know they don't see it yet. It's just like when you go through your old photographs, 20, 30 years ago, and you find a gem in there and you don't know how the hell you made it.
Yep.
Same thing here with this exercise. There's something that is just completely intuitive and completely natural that comes through, regardless of experience level as well.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people have been shooting for 20 years.
Sometimes the rookies are better at it.
Always. Yeah, because they're not burdened by all that stuff that they've learned.
No. And so I did another assignment. This was an assignment, not an exercise. I called it auto and slow. They had to be whatever camera you had, full automatic.
Okay.
So if you had the green auto, you were on green auto. And if you were not, you were just on program mode with auto ISO, and you couldn't change anything. Go shoot 200 photos on full auto, just making pictures. And then go in manual focus. And a lot of them struggle with manual focus because they've never focused before. And manual ISO, and you can take 20 pictures. And they learned a lot from that. That was an eye-opener for
limitations, man. It's all about limitations.
Oh, yeah. And the engineers, they so struggle with making a mistake. They so struggle with being wrong. I don't want to be wrong.
Yeah.
And they feel like they're losing in photography if they're making mistakes.
So what's the thing that you have to fight against when you're making pictures?
Me?
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this a lot because I've been binging Iberian X for the last 3 months. I don't know why. You always come up on my podcast thing. So I've been listening to new ones, old ones, and I've been thinking about this a lot. My thing is I don't get to shoot for me enough. Mm-hmm. I don't get to do my projects because I'm leading a workshop and I'm shooting while I'm leading the workshop. I am not the guy. So when I first started doing workshops, I went on half a dozen workshops, and what I mostly learned was how not to lead a workshop from, a lot of those people, right? And, there was the general with the Schwager stick smacking people to go make pictures, right? There, so I photograph with them. I lead from the front. I lead by example, but I'm not making my pictures. I'm setting up the pictures that they want, that I want them to take. And so that's, my wife challenges me on that all the time. She says, where are you? Where are you in this picture? Right? And, I firmly believe in the Edward Weston, DeWitt Jones, Ansel Adams. The camera always points both ways. Right. It points at the subject and it points at you. So, I try to put more of me in the pictures, and my crew can see it. I mean, we do a once a month print class. I call it Creative Vision, where everybody brings 3 prints. After 3 months of meeting, they don't even need to put their name on them anymore. Oh, you put them up there, and this picture, that's Betty's picture, that's Bob's picture, right? And every now and then somebody will surprise us, right? So that's my biggest challenge, is to make pictures for me, and it takes effort. It takes letting go. It takes, for me, it's going to have to be more where I'm not worried about somebody. So I can't be on a walk with you where, I'm the leader. If we're two friends, that's different, right? Because you're on your own. If you fall, it's not on me, right? We just laugh at you and then because you fell down, right? So
there are only a couple of photographers who I know who I could go out with where I would have that problem, because our attitude is like, we go out together, but then we just kind of split off. And we may reconnect in a moment, but then we're off and doing our own things. We're not in this, because if I go on a photo walk, I don't intend to make any photographs. It's socializing.
Well, but but that's where, if I was going to coach you as a photo teacher, you got to make pictures. That's one of the things I learned. I went on 2 photo workshops, and the selling point on the workshop was big name instructor A did not photograph on the trip. So big name photographer A sits down on a park bench, and back in the day he was reading a paperback book. Today he would be on his phone. Right? I mean, if you don't have the camera, you're not going to be at the front line. What are you going to, you're not going to be walking through the river to find the right spot. Right? You've got to, for me, I have to lead from the front. I have to find the picture. I have to tell the guy, hey, come on over here. Did you look at this angle from over here? Did you see this? And hey, you've got the 135 on there. Look what happens if you go to 200. And in my life, I can't do that unless I've got the lens on the camera, unless I've got the camera on the tripod or walking with my camera. I'm sorry, I don't have the discipline to be engaged that deep. Yeah. I end up, it denigrates to talking about cars and football and music, and that's not why people are there. Yeah, yeah. And it's real demanding, because I'm pretty spent at the end of the day, Oh my gosh, yeah. So my wife always tells me, so I come home from a photo walk, right? She says, what, is your finger tired? Did you do this 1,000 times? So you've had some amazing experiences, leading workshops and teaching. Yes. When you think about a memory that you have that could not have happened had you not embraced, a life of photography in the way that you have. I know you probably have many, but it's my lifetime. Yeah. I grew up as a shopkeeper's son. We didn't have a lot of money. We still don't have a lot of money. I mean, you don't make tons of money running a camera store. We don't make tons of money, leading photo trips, but you have amazing experience. I mean, I think, I thank God every day for what we have, right? So you want the one experience? I think it was the cheetah in Tanzania. So watching, and so this is true on any animal. So no, I'm going to retrench. I'm going to go with the rhino in Kenya that made my wife cry, because she loves rhinos, and we know how rhinos are endangered. So we went to a rhino sanctuary, and the rhino came up to the car, and she touched his horn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I mean, here's a grown woman, right? And just, and it's those kind. Do I have a picture of it? No, because I was in the wrong spot, right? I was in the wrong spot in the car. But is that something that she and I talk about all the time? Is that a memory that she and I'll have? And we were planning, that was 2 years ago. That was the planning trip, the scouting trip for the trip we're going to take next week. So she's going back. We're going to go back to the rhino sanctuary, and she'll get to see her rhinos up close.
That's nice.
I don't know if she's going to cry this time or not. Probably not, because that was last time. But yeah. I mean, I've got 1,000 memories of X. We got to have a beer sometime, and you can tell me yours, and I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah. I've got a few.
So what's your favorite one? Come on.
Off the top of my head, it's not a big moment, but I was working at Outdoor Photographer magazine. Mm-hmm. This was fairly early on, and I had some piece of equipment that I was given to review, and I left early for work, and I drove up PCH, went to Zuma Beach, and I was there all by myself, and I just had that beach all to myself that day. And I was sitting there and thinking, oh my God, I'm in the middle of the day in a beautiful location just to make pictures.
Yeah.
And it was just because I had been, in front of when I was working at Nikon, I was in front of a computer answering phone calls for 8 years. Right. Yeah. So that moment to be outside there was just like, this camera is giving me this opportunity to just be here and really enjoy it. And I think part of it was just the fact that it wasn't so much the making of the photographs, but that I appreciated the moment that was having.
Well, the opportunity. And that's what I've always thought is Eisenstadt, when I have a camera in my hand, I know no fear. And I feel that. And who was it said, the camera is my passport to life? I think that was Bill Allard. Yeah. Where has the camera taken us? What places has it taken us?
Oh, yeah. I can't imagine what my life would have been without it.
I mean, Dorothea Lange says the camera is an instrument that teaches people how to see without a camera, right? So where are we going to go, X, right? What are we going to see? Where our cameras are going to take you? Do you ever think about, I think about this a lot, and I talk to customers a lot, because people trade in their favorite cameras, especially now, right?
Yeah.
I've got my 5D Mark IV, and I photographed my son's bar mitzvah with this camera, right? And I'm giving it to you, Mark. I'm trading it in because I want a R5 Mark II, right? Think about what that camera's seen, right? How cool is that? And now you're going to trade it in. You're going to get a new camera, right? New experiences, but your camera is going to go now to a high school kid and start over again, right?
Yeah.
Take night football games and his friends at a party, and right? I like to think of the cameras like the toys in Toy Story.
Oh, yeah.
You know how Woody, they were all thrown in the toy chest, unhappy because they weren't getting played with anymore, right? And here now you get traded in at the camera store, and you're a new camera for somebody. And you get to go out and play again. And you get to make pictures again. How cool is that?
Yeah.
Especially the old timers, right? So now the kids are pulling out their dads and their grandparents, Minolta SRTs and Nikon FEs, and those cameras are getting to play again. Yeah.
Someone gifted me a Leica 3F.
Oh, how are you using it?
Yes, I got it all tuned up. I'm on my second roll of film through it. But that's exactly what I was thinking, because it's only had one owner, and it was in a garage for years.
Yeah.
But it was just like this camera, was used in very personal way,
Yeah.
And they took care of it really well, but still, have a camera sitting that long.
It's 60, 70 years old.
Yeah.
And now it's yours. Now you get to touch it. You get to play with it.
And I'm enjoying the different mechanics of it and how it calls me to see and photograph in a slightly different way.
Yeah, yeah. And you're going to make it yours. You're going to make your pictures with it.
Yeah, and I look forward to that.
So you asked me also what's changed. People's expectations have changed. And I see so many people just wanting to collect pictures. So when we were kids, we wanted to grow up to be professional ball players, right? I'm going to be the next Willie Mays, the next Roberto Clemente, the next whoever, right? When we were kids. Now they all want to be influencers and Instagrammers. And so they're not photographing for them. They're back to collecting, right?
Yeah.
It's like collecting stamps, right? Ooh, I need a sunset waterfall. I need a blurry whatever. I need a this, I need a that. Yeah. And, the hard part for me is at the camera store is our job is to sell them that. But I also, on this teacher side, I want to inspire them to do their own thing. Don't just go just don't go out. I think a lot about the Lakota in battle. The ultimate was to count coup, to touch their opponent, right? You didn't have to hurt him. You just had to touch him. And that means you scored a point, right? So am I going to go out today and with my camera and score points by touching these things? Or am I going to go out and make a picture? Am I going to make something that will inspire someone else, that'll tell my story, that'll make you happy to see it?
And in many ways, even if that's what leads them to get into it, for some, it's going to be a gateway of discovering a new way to express themselves, and they'll go to that next level when they start thinking about what they want to say with the photographs, not just taking it.
Yeah, so my friends and the uninitiated in the camera business asked me, so Mark, hasn't the cell phone destroyed your business? No. The cell phone's the gateway drug.
Yeah.
That gets you in. And now all of the kids, the high school, college kids, want the point and shoot, the Nikon Coolpixes from the 2000s again, right? And they want those. So they've given up their cell phone for the Coolpix. And you know what they're going to want next? Nikon D3300, baby.
Yeah.
Because it's got interchangeable lenses and I can make the settings, right? And then they'll get hooked on that and suddenly they'll buy, a Z7 II. And, it's all good because they'll be making photographs.
Well, my last question that I ask each guest is I ask them to recommend another photographer for our listeners to discover and explore, and it can be anyone. Someone you've long admired or someone you've recently discovered. So who would that one photographer be and why?
So I have two. Is that allowed?
Yes. Go ahead.
So my photographer of choice, if I've had a bad day, I will go home. I will get a cold adult beverage. I will put on a Jimmy Buffett album and pull out my Gary Winogrand books.
Oh, yeah.
So if you haven't seen the work of Gary Winogrand, it's not for everyone. And his story is amazing. So please get a book. Don't just be satisfied with the internet. Get one of his books and read it. I mean, read it. We don't read it. We just look at the pictures, right? And the second one is Heather C. Morrow.
Tell me, I'm not familiar with it. Tell me.
So Heather lived in Altadena. She lost her house in the fire.
Oh, yes, you did have told me about her. Yes.
And she is embarked on a project. So it's a 3-part project. She is done with part 1, where she documented the destruction of her neighborhood. And she made Iberia X. These are amazing photographs of the neighborhood, the damage. How can you say beautiful photographs of damage? But right? Yeah. They're extremely powerful images. The second part that she's working on is she's photographing portraits of her friends and neighbors with what they saved. And usually something that they've gone back, right, that's mangled, burned, whatever, but is dear to them. So making portraits of the people holding the object. And the third part of it is going to be, her third part of the project is going to be the reconstruction, and she doesn't know where it's Is that going to be the people building the houses back, or is it going to be the people walking through the front door of their home once it's redone? But
that's great.
Yeah, she's an awesome photographer.
Well, Mark, thank you for joining us, and it's been a real pleasure to have a chance to talk with you for an hour, and just more importantly, to rekindle a friendship with you.
It is. I mean, it's great, Avery and X, and you know what? The camera brought us here.
Absolutely.
And the camera will take us forward.
Thanks to Mark for sharing his story and his passion for photography. You can learn more about Paul's Photo and the Creative Photo Academy by visiting paulsphoto.com or by stopping by the store if you're in the South Bay. It's more than a camera shop, it's a hub for photographers. And if you're enjoying The Candid Frame, please leave a review on whatever podcast app you listen to. Share your favorite episode online using the hashtag #TheCandidFrame and let others know why you listen. You can also support the show financially through Patreon or making a one-time donation through buymeacoffee.com/TheCandidFrame. Your contributions help keep the show going and growing. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the newsletter on Substack. I share personal stories, creative prompts, and behind-the-scenes updates with the show. Join us. Our audio engineer is Martin Taylor, who you can find at theothermartintaylor.com. The show's senior producer is Cynthia Parker. And this is Ibari and X, and this is The Candid Frame.